Hey gang, so I've got a young lady that's asked me to teach her how to cook, and so in going over our recipes and what we're wanting to do as I'm teaching her different elements of cooking, I mentioned a phrase she had never heard of before, concassé. Concassé is a French term. It is a way that you can peel fruit without losing too much of the flesh. It's a very easy process. Basically, you're boiling the fruit very quickly in some water and then chilling it down, and that kind of loosens the pectin layer between the flesh and the skin, so you can just peel the skin off and not lose the flesh. It's really good for stuff like peaches, tomatoes, things of that nature. And so I'm fixing supper tonight, and I thought, well, I'm going to concassé some tomatoes. I've got some zucchinis. I'm going to make me a little a tomato and zucchini casserole. I'll show you how to do that. It's just making do with what you're doing. There's no hard and fast recipe. You can add whatever you want to it. I'll just show you how I'm doing it. But the main purpose of this video is so you can see how I do concasséing. It's a very simple process. I'll show you that, and then I'll show you how I do my casserole as a little addition. Stick around. The first thing you want to do is make sure you have a large pot and fill it with some water and bring it to a boil. And so once it's to a boil, then we can go on to the next step. Okay, you always want really ripe fruit to do this. It's best to have the most ripe fruit you can. And so what you'll do is you'll take a paring knife and you'll just lightly make an X. And so this just kind of lightly cut in an X like that and like this. Now this is a grocery store brand tomato, so skin is a little hard. It's not like some of these heirloom tomatoes where the skin, oops, did not mean to go that much. I need to sharpen this knife a little bit too. And then we'll flip this over. Cut a little bit too deep. I'm also trying to do this one-handed, and so not good. So there we go. And wow, I need to sharpen this knife up. My goodness. There we go. Alright, so hopefully you have a more sharp knife than what I got, but you just cut an X. And then we'll toss this into the boiling water. In addition to the boiling water, you need a bowl filled with water and ice. This is going to be an ice bath, and you need to put a lot of ice in there and a lot of water to make sure that's nice and cold. Stir the ice around, get that temperature down so that we can shop the tomatoes once they come out of the boiling water. Now when doing this, it's always critical to remember to use a larger volume of water than you think that you need, so that when you take the room temperature, not cold, but room temperature fruit or vegetable into, and you dip it into the water, you don't lower the water temperature that much. What you're looking for is the X to start peeling away just a little bit. So you're just kind of flash boiling these or parboiling these very quickly. Alright, these have been in for about 30 seconds, more or less. I'm going to go ahead and fish these out with my slotted spoon. Now this will go straight into the ice bath. You want that so you can stop all cooking action. Now all you have to do is take your paring knife and peel, get between the flesh and the skin, and just peel it off. Here I've shown how I've started just with the paring knife, and it just peels right off. Alright, as you can see here, we have our tomato peelings. What you will notice about these, hardly no waste whatsoever. Just a little bit of residual connective tissue from where the fruit was touching the skin. That is it. This is just skins, no flesh. Now, this is the concassé tomatoes. They're totally peeled. Right? You can see that the skins are gone on it. All I've got to do is remove this part right here. Just cut that out, chop them up, use them however I wish to. It's just that easy. In roughly less than 2 minutes time, I've already concasséed these out, got them peeled. It's no different whether you have 3, 30, or 300. It can be just as quick. The trick is to make sure that you got boiling water, you got a way larger amount of water than what you think you will need so that you do not lower temperature of the water, and then you have an ice bath sufficient enough to put them in and get them cooled down very quickly. Again, more water and ice than you think you will need. This will chill them, keep them from cooking. Now they still are mostly raw, and they're ready for me to finish prepping up. On to our next portion of the video where I show you how to do my zucchini and tomato casserole. For the next portion of this video, what I'm going to do is just cut out this part right here. I've already peeled off the end part, so I don't have to worry about that. And then I'm going to coarsely chop these up. So you can see where I took the core out, and all I did was just kind of stick this paring knife in there and just run it around a few times. And then it just comes out just like that. See that little piece right there? The core's totally out. Now you can just cut them in half, and then from there you can then take these halves, flip them over flat, do about 3 chops one direction, and then I like to go about another chop the other direction. And then that right there is how I'm going to cut up my tomatoes, and they're going to go into roughly, I've cleaned out the bowl that I used as ice bath, and all these tomatoes are going to go into that bowl, and I'll be back after I get this all chopped up. Now make sure you throw the core pieces away. We don't want to eat those, but this leaves you with roughly about 3 to 4 cups of chopped up quality tomatoes that are edible. Now in a pot, I'm melting together 2 tablespoons of cooking oil with 2 tablespoons of salted butter. Once the butter is melted, we're going to add in the tomatoes. So, the reason why we're doing this is that tomatoes, they have 3 different flavors that are soluble, or 3 different classifications of flavors. So one is water soluble, the other is fat soluble, and the third is alcohol soluble. So since we're not going to be adding any alcohol, we want to make sure we utilize the other 2 flavor components as much as possible. So this is breaking down the tomatoes. When you put tomatoes into oil, it breaks it down. And so this is starting the breaking down process for it, and those fat soluble flavors are merging with the cooking oil and butter. And then when we add water, then those water based flavors will marry in to make a more tomato forward dish. Now Walmart, they had a sale on French bread. It was $1 a loaf, and you could get it either sliced or not sliced, and I opted for sliced. I got 2 loaves. Won't be used for this dish. I'll probably use about 3/4 of it, and then the rest of it I'm going to use for a bread pudding at a later date. So I'll probably post that recipe video later on, so be watching out for that. But for this, what we're going to do is use roughly about 3/4 of this bread, and we're going to cut it up into decent sized dices that we can then put in the oven to kind of crisp up a little bit. Kind of, instead of waiting for it to become stale, we're going to kind of speed up the process a little bit. So what you do is take a slice and just basically cut it 3 times and then one across, and that gives you these little cubes like this. And these slices are roughly about a 1/2 inch thick, and so that gives you something a little bit more than about, I'd say about 1 inch long by 1/2 inch thick. Just nice little cubes that we can put on a sheet tray and kind of crisp up a little bit, kind of speed up the process of making it stale, because it's pretty good thin bread or soft bread. It's fresh bread, and we want it to be more firm so it can stand up to cooking. For the sake of speed, it's always good to do about 5 or 6 slices at one time if you can. Alright, so I put this on a sheet tray. This is what's left. Like I said, about a quarter of the loaf is left. And this is now going into a 350 degree oven. I'll put it in for about a minute or 2. Before it starts browning, I'll pull it out. All I want to do is just kind of be dry a little bit. I want to kind of speed up that staling process and get the bread hard but not toasted. Alright, our bread is all done. I have 6 zucchinis. They're roughly about 1 foot long. I'm going to cut them up into the same size as I did the tomatoes. And I'm also going to cut up this yellow onion. It's roughly about the same size as tomato. I'm going to cut it up to about the same size. I turned off the tomatoes just so that I can show this next part. I'll add in about a 1/2 teaspoon of peppercorn medley grinder. You can use black pepper if you wish. I just like it has a little extra flavor. It's made by McCormick's. It has allspice, coriander, various colored peppercorns. Just really good blend. Add that in. I'm going to add in some sea salt to taste. I'm using Heinz, but you can use whatever salt you like. I just like sea salt. I think it makes vegetables taste better myself, but that's personal preference. You want to do a little bit more salt than you think you need. I'm doing about, I'd say 3/4 of a teaspoon. I may adjust later. It's totally optional, but I do like to put MSG in my vegetables. I think that it brings out the flavor of meats, dairy, and produce. So I do like MSG. If you don't want to put in there, by all means, don't put in there. I'm going to put roughly, I'd say 1/4 of a teaspoon. It doesn't take much of this. This is also something that is totally optional. I love paprika. Really, I love Hungarian paprika, but Hungarian paprika has gotten expensive. This is the cheap kind. I really don't like using it. I think if you can get a hold of Hungarian paprika, it's better. You'll notice a difference. But since I've got this, I'm going to put in a teaspoon. If I was using Hungarian paprika, I'd probably only put in a 1/2 teaspoon because it's so power-packed in flavor. Now we'll add in the onion and bring it back up to a boil. Again, I've turned off the tomatoes, or actually lowered temperature so you can see them. The onions have broken apart now and starting to turn translucent a little bit. Now it's time to add in the zucchini. Now we'll slowly stir these in. The zucchini they've got a ton of moisture, and when they hit this sauce and the salt and the sauce and everything, it's going to release a lot of water. So I'm not adding water directly, I'm adding it indirectly with the zucchini, and it's only going to create a more fuller flavored dish because this has got all the zucchini flavor that's being leaked into the tomato base. I've got right here 4 tablespoons or 1/2 stick of melted salted butter. I'm going to put in a tablespoon of toasted sesame oil. I'm going to add in 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Alright, we're going to mix all this up. Now we're going to drizzle this over the bread real quick. Now that half of it's got drizzled over, I'm going to kind of stir it around on this, and then I'll put the other half on the bread that's uncovered, any uncovered pieces I find. Alright, now I'm going to lightly season it with garlic salt. Just lightly sprinkle it and then stir it around. Now, I normally do not heat up olive oil due to health reasons. It will actually break down the beneficial compounds in olive oil. But I'm not using the olive oil for health benefits. I'm actually using it for flavor. So in this case, it's a flavoring agent and not just something for dietary purposes. Alright, this is cooked down. I've let it cook for about, I'd say, 30 minutes or so. It's all cooked down now. We're going to put this in a casserole dish and top it with the bread and pop it in the oven. This right here is a standard 3-quart casserole dish that I've poured this in. And you can see that the zucchini's cooked all the way through, and we added no water, but yet there's plenty of liquid. Right before you pour in the casserole dish, that would have been time to adjust in your seasonings. I added a little bit more salt and MSG to bring out the buttery notes and all the different fruit flavors and sweet flavors of the zucchini and the tomatoes to make it taste a little bit more vibrant. Okay, there we go. We got the bread on top. If you happen to have some holes and you didn't make enough, you could always take a little bit of panko breadcrumbs, roll it on your tray that you has your seasoning and oil in there, and fill in the gaps. This will now go into a 350-degree oven until the bread gets nice and toasted on top, probably about 20 to 30 minutes. There we go. It is all nice and toasted up. You need to let this set for just a few minutes once you take it out of the oven, not too long. And I went ahead and fried some cube pork just to go along with this. And here you go. So this is just a little quick meal. You could easily do the concassé to make spaghetti sauce or any number of things. Canning tomatoes, canning peaches. It's just a great tool to learn. This is going to make a great meal here. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give it a like. Comment down below if you peel your tomatoes a different way. Subscribe if you hadn't already. Hit that notification bell, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.